Well, good afternoon and welcome to everybody. And thank you for joining me for today's Mimio webinar series. My name is Travis Rink from Mimio, and I'd like to welcome you to our webinar today. Paget Hetherington from Mimio is also here, and she will be facilitating our question and answer session later today. So before we begin, like we always like to do in our webinars, if you're a returning participant, thank you for coming back. I'd like to make sure that you can hear us loud and clear. So if you give me some sort of a sign there in the chat box on the lower left side, maybe a smiley face, if you can hear me okay, please go ahead and put something down there so we can get interactive and make sure we're broadcasting on a global scale. So I see Patty and Thomas has put something out there, so I think we're probably good to go. So thank you for doing that. I appreciate that. So today's webinar will highlight some of the newest features and tools that are available in our current version of Mimio Studio software. Of course, that's Mimio Studio 11, as well as Mimio Mobile, our mobile app that is available both in the iTunes and Google Play Store. And it's all designed to facilitate and encourage collaboration in your classroom. So with that said, we're very pleased and honored to have an expert in this field with collaboration, our very well-known social studies teacher, Mr. Paul Gigliotti, who's going to be presenting classroom collaboration with Mimio. He's going to be showing you a number of examples of how you can get even more collaborative in your classroom. So, and before I introduce Paul, once again, I said in the chat box, I'd like to welcome all of you, especially on a very special day, Teacher Appreciation Day. Not that we need just one single day. In fact, we're celebrating it all week long. So thank you for all that you all do in the classroom each and every day and in your school to help kiddos to be inspired to learn and achieve their absolute highest. So with that said, let's go on. Go ahead and talk about Paul. Let's introduce him. Paul is an outstanding educator from the Cleveland, Ohio area, and he currently teaches, like I said, high school social studies. He's been a classroom teacher for over 14 years and has been a very avid Mimio user for most of that, and he serves as one of our Mimio Quick Learn instructors also, as well as helps to manage our Mimio Connect teacher community that some of you may be a member of. So he's able to fire the imagination of every one of these kiddos every single day through his exquisite passion, I would say, for social studies as well as educational technology. And among all of his various professional accolades, we could go on and on and on with. One of the ones I think is most exciting is Paul is a former Ohio Middle School Teacher of the Year from 2008. So congratulations on that, Paul. Now, before I do turn it over to Paul, I would like to cover some quick housekeeping details. Each of you should have a sidebar over there to the left side of the presentation window, which our presentation window, Paul's getting set up there, it looks like. So he'll be sharing that in just a second. So throughout today's presentation, feel free to use that chat window on the lower left side to ask any questions that you have of Paul or us, and we're going to do our best to address those, during Paul's presentation, but more than likely during the Q&A session. So every one of your questions will be addressed, whether during the webinar or in a follow-up post email that we'll send. So you can sit back, relax, enjoy the show. I will let you know if you're new to our webinar series, which is our final one of the spring, that we do record these, and we will make these available on demand and on our website, but also provide you the link among the other follow-up materials that you will receive in the next couple of days when we get all that process. So, like I said, sit back, relax, enjoy, and hear what Paul has to say, and hopefully you can have some immediate application here in these last few weeks of your school year. So, with that said, it's my pleasure to welcome Paul. Paul, are you there?
I am here, Travis.
All right, it is all yours, my friend. Take it away, please.
Fantastic. Well, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us. Happy Teacher Appreciation Day. It's wonderful to be here with all of my fellow educators to talk about one of my passions, which, of course, is Mimio Mobile in the classroom. So, again, thanks for joining me. We're going to have a lot of fun here this afternoon talking a little bit about Mimio Mobile and, most of all, sharing some examples with you of how Mimio Mobile can be used in the classroom. So just to give an overview of what we're going to be doing here this afternoon, first of all, I want to get started by sharing with you how easy it is to get started with Mimio Mobile from a hardware perspective. We're going to talk about where you can get the Mimio mobile app for all of your mobile devices and how you can get it rocking and rolling with your students. Beyond that, I'm going to share some examples of how Mimio Mobile can be used across the curriculum. Many of these lessons can actually be found on Mimio Connect, so you'll be able to leave the session here today and go download those same lessons that we see here and start using them with your students, hopefully, in the remainder of the school year. We're also going to talk a little bit about the 3 different ways that you can use Mimio Mobile in the classroom along with those examples, which just shows how versatile, how flexible Mimio Mobile can be as well. So sit back and relax and make sure that you put your questions into the chat box so we can get those answered for you as the session comes to an end. So here we go. First off, when you want to get started with Mimio Mobile, and I know once you leave here tonight, you're all going to want to go ahead and take care of this. But what you're going to want to do first, of course, in order to make Mimio Mobile go, there's 2 basic parts. And the first part is making sure that you have Mimio Studio software installed on your computer. Now, I know many of you already have Mimio products in the classroom. You're very familiar with Mimio Studio software, which is fantastic. You understand how powerful of a teaching tool it can be. And of course, you always want to make sure that you have the latest and greatest version of Mimio Studio, which is Mimio Studio 11.11. For those of you who might not be familiar with Mimio Studio software, all you have to do is shoot on out to our website. That's mimio.com, M-I-M-I-O. And at mimio.com, of course, you can always download the latest version of our software. It'll install straight to your computer for Windows, Mac, and Linux. And if you don't already currently have Mimio Studio software, you can actually evaluate it free for up to 30 days. So once that installation process goes through, you'll have that 30-day evaluation period, which, hey, works out great since it's May. It'll get you through the end of the school year. And once you try it, you're going to understand how powerful of a teaching tool it truly can be. If you already have a Mimio product, all you have to do is get it connected, plug it on in, and the full version of the software will, in fact, be activated. So step 1 in getting started with Mimio Mobile, make sure that your computer has Mimio Studio software installed. Now, obviously, Mimio Mobile is going to allow you to really leverage and utilize your classroom mobile devices as well as student devices with your Mimio Studio software. So the second part of making Mimio Mobile go in your classroom is to download the app. The Mimio Mobile application is available, of course, for Apple products as well as Android. All you have to do is go to the App Store or the Google Play Store and just search for Mimio Mobile. You can download the app free of charge on any mobile device. So you can put it on an iPad or a tablet. You can put it on pretty much any type of Apple phone, iPod, any type of Android phone as well. If you're doing a bring your own device initiative in your classroom, I've had some students go ahead and place the app on their personal devices as well, and then of course they can come to your class and utilize them, which is a great feature, especially if your school perhaps doesn't have the funding for tablets for all of your students. Just like with the Mimio Studio software, with the app, there's a 30-day evaluation period, and that's because in order to make the app go, you have to purchase the license. And I know Travis will be talking a little bit more about that towards the end of the session, but there's a license that goes with your Mimio Studio software that will enable your Mimio mobile application. So you'll have to purchase the license, but of course it is free to download the app. So you can download the app on as many mobile devices as you might need in your classroom, and then you'll just go ahead, purchase the license, and you'll be able then to utilize Mimio Mobile with your Mimio Studio software lessons. Now, before we jump into some examples, one of the other questions that comes up quite a bit whenever we're talking about Mimio Mobile is how does it work? Because it's fantastic. You're going to be able to take the lessons inside your Mimio Studio notebook, and you're going to be able to push them out to all the mobile devices in your classroom through the magic of Mimio Mobile. And so a lot of times whenever we do a session or webinar like this, people ask, well, how in the world does it work? So I have a little diagram here on the left-hand side of my screen, and you'll notice that I have my teacher computer, which of course is loaded up and ready to go with the powerhouse of all Mimio products, our Mimio Studio software. And then I have my students over here with their mobile devices, either Apple or Android devices. And of course, in the middle, connecting everybody is that Wi-Fi connection. So one of the things you're also going to want to make sure of is that in your classroom, you have some sort of Wi-Fi connection between the computer that has Mimio Mobile and Mimio Studio and the student devices. And using that Wi-Fi connection, we're going to be able to do all the magical things that we see here today. The thing that I really like about Mimio Mobile is once you get everything going, so once you have Mimio Studio software installed, once you've downloaded the app onto the mobile devices, getting yourself as the teacher and getting your students connected is really very simple. There are some QR codes that your Mimio mobile app will scan. You've probably seen those QR codes around town, right? They're in shopping centers and fitness tracks. They're everywhere now. So you go and you're basically going to scan the QR code that your software is going to give you, and using the Mimio mobile app, your mobile application is going to get locked in. And the students then are going, as you'll see in a second, they're going to be connected to your lesson, and then you'll be able to determine what they do then within that connection. So you don't have to worry that they're going to be off, looking at something online or doing something that they're not supposed to be doing. And you'll see that as we go through the examples. So just to recap, make sure you have Mimio Studio installed on your computer. Make sure that you download the Mimio mobile application from the App Store or the Google Play Store. You can try it out for 30 days. Again, the end of the school year is here, so it's a great time to give it a shot. And I know you're going to love it and purchase the license so that you can then utilize it in your classroom. So that is how you're going to go ahead and get started. And, of course, you can start doing that immediately following the session. Now, the meat and potatoes of our session here, or our webinar here this afternoon, is how we can use Mimio Mobile in the classroom. Sure, the tech side of it is great. So, wow, we're using Wi-Fi and advanced software and all that cool stuff. But really, when you have any type of educational technology, its true value is how you can use it as the classroom teacher. You know, how can I actually take my curriculum and integrate it with this piece of technology? And that's what I love so much about Mimio Mobile, because there are many different ways that I can use Mimio Mobile in my classroom with my students. Mimio Mobile allows me to do a couple of different things, and it allows me to do all of them throughout any given day or any given lesson. So I'm able to do a lot of things that get my students engaged, that get my students active, and that will also allow me to gather assessment data to plan my next lesson. So we're going to be looking at lessons that cover all three of the different functions of your Mimio Mobile in the classroom. First of all, we're going to talk about engagement. I love the fact that when I use Mimio Mobile in my classroom, I can get my students engaged. Not only as a teacher can I connect a mobile device to my Mimio Studio software and control my lesson from anywhere in the classroom, but I can also, as you'll see in a moment, hand off control to all of my students. So I can buzz around the room and I can give one student control and then another student control. And of course the students then, they don't know when I'm going to give them control. So they have to pay attention. And of course once they get control, now they have to interact with the content, and it's just a win-win situation. Beyond that, I can also use Mimio Mobile as a collaborative tool. I can actually break my students up into 9 different groups. And as a group, they can work on whatever type of lesson I've created or I've downloaded from Mimio Connect inside of my Mimio Studio notebook. And as a class now, I'm going to be able, and the class is going to be able to see all of their work in real time projected up onto my board. Then we'll be able to review, we'll be able to focus in on one group or another. And as you'll see some examples here in just a moment, it's a truly powerful experience. And then lastly, of course, one buzzword that we hear all the time now in education is assessment, assessment data. Well, Mimio Mobile makes assessment easy, because what we're going to do is we're going to take your mobile device, or we're going to take your student's device, and we're going to turn it into an assessment tool. We're going to turn it into a tool that's going to allow us not only to ask our students multiple choice type questions, true and false and so forth, but also alphanumeric questions and short response questions right from their mobile device. And of course, with my Mimio Studio gradebook behind that, I'm going to get instant real-time data. I'm not going to have to spend time necessarily grading things. I'm going to get my data to plan my next lesson, to figure out which students might need intervention and so forth. So as we go through these examples, I think you're going to be very impressed in all 3 of these areas. Now, I know some of you are probably thinking, boy, that sounds great, Paul, but I'm just getting started. It's a little bit overwhelming. And that's where Mimio Connect comes in. I know many of you are already members of Mimio Connect, and if you are not, what are you waiting for? Sign up. It's free of charge. You can download lessons right from Mimio Connect across the curriculum, use them in your class today, and for the rest of the year, obviously. You can edit them, you can change them to meet the specific needs of your classroom. And we actually have a lesson, a series of lessons really created for Mimio Connect, or I'm sorry, for Mimio Mobile on Mimio Connect called Collaborate to the Core. So all you have to do is log into your Mimio Connect account. You can go to your Collaborate to the Core, and there are lessons across the curriculum, grades K through 12, that will allow you to really utilize Mimio Mobile and, of course, attach to the Common Core. After all, collaboration is a big part of the Common Core that's there. So definitely check out Mimio Connect when you leave here. And if you're not already a member, sign up. If you know someone who's not, tell them all about Mimio Connect. Make sure that you get everybody in your building signed up to have access to those amazing lessons and resources. So let's go ahead then and have a look at some example lessons that I've brought along with me here. They're all from Mimio Connect, and of course, they're all going to be able to showcase how you can use Mimio Mobile in your classroom. So the first way I mentioned at the start of the webinar here today was what we call control mode. I said that we can get our students engaged. I can use Mimio Mobile as the teacher as well to hand off control to students around my classroom, and that's what control mode is all about. You see, as the classroom teacher, I'm going to use one of those QR codes at the start of my lesson, and I'm going to take my personal mobile device, and I'm going to connect to my lesson. I'm going to connect to my Mimio Studio software. And as the teacher now, I'm going to get some real fancy controls up at the top of my mobile device, and one of the buttons I have right here is on the right-hand side is my control button. And what I'll be able to do then is I'll be able to go ahead and press that button and then select any of the students in my classroom. Now keep in mind, we're all on the same Wi-Fi network, so they have also used their student QR code, and they've connected to my software as well. So now their names are going to pop up here, and as the teacher, all I have to do is touch their names, their mobile devices, and now they'll have control. And you'll see your lesson appear right on their mobile device. The other students, don't worry, they're not daydreaming, they're not checking their email or Facebook or something. Their screen's going to be kind of locked out until you give them control. And of course, as the teacher, don't worry, I know it's hard to give up control, but you're going to have a magical button right in the middle that says take back control. So whenever you need to, you can take back control and then go ahead and give control to another student. So let me show you some examples here of what control mode might look like in a lesson. So I brought along this social studies lesson I used back in March for Women's History Month. And we were talking about some famous women at various times in American history. And what the students had to do with this particular part of the lesson was to take control of my lesson using control mode, Mimio Mobile control mode, and they're going to select the appropriate name down here at the bottom and drag it to the picture. So we had learned about some of these historical figures, and now the students would have to drag them over. What's it going to look like? Well, it's going to look something like this. I'm going to give control, let's say, to Steve Jones here, and then Steve's going to do the first one. So I might say, okay, Steve, let's go ahead and see if you can identify the first person here. And then Steve's going to go ahead and all of a sudden now on his mobile device, he has that lesson. Keep in mind, it's being projected in front of the class, right? It's up on my board, but now Steve here, he has it right in the palm of his hand. And he's going to take his finger, he's going to grab the correct name, he's going to drag it all the way up next to the picture, and I'm going to say, great job, Steve, and I'm going to take control back from Steve, and then I'm going to say, okay, Jane, you're going to do number 2. And then I can pass it off after Jane does number 2, and we can go on and on and on. And as I said, this lesson is available on Mimio Connect as well. And so you see, as we go through now, I can get, with one page here, 6 students involved. So rather than just having maybe one come up to the board, or rather than maybe calling on one student and the others are kind of staring blankly, they don't know when I'm going to give them control. So I can give I can give one person control for the first one, another person control for the second one, and presumably if I had a full lesson, I'd be able to go ahead and get pretty much everybody in my class control, which is great. So that's a social studies example. Here's a math example. This is lots of fun. It's fraction pizza party time. And this is another lesson available on Mimio Connect where the students now will take control of my lesson using control mode right here inside Mimio Mobile, and they're going to use the pen tool as well as the selector tool to make some pizza, which is great. So in this particular recipe here, they need to divide the pizza up into thirds. So I could give control to somebody and I could say, okay, Chris, you're going to take control and I want you to use my pen tool and divide this pizza up into thirds. So then he takes control and he's dividing up my pizza using my pen tool or something like that. And I got kind of a lopsided pizza there, and I said, oh, Chris, that's terrible. Here, I move it over here, something, I don't know, whatever we say to Chris. And I give control to Angelique. As Angelique, all right, we need some onions. So Angelique, she goes ahead, she gets my selector tool now, and she starts to put some onions on there. And then somebody else, they're going to put mushrooms on there, and so forth. And before long, we are making pizza, which is great. Get those lines out of there for you. So you can kind of see now, one student's dividing it, one student's putting those in there, and I'm able to get more people involved. And if you like the pizza lesson, like I said, it's available on MimioConnect.com by Jay Hassett. Great lesson, and she goes through and has multiple different pizza recipes, which are great. This is one of my all-time favorite lessons. It is our interactive periodic table. Now, I don't know about you guys, but when I was in chemistry back years ago, it was fairly dry. Nothing against chemistry, but we had a pencil and paper, and there's a big periodic table hanging from the wall, and we had to build compounds the old-fashioned way, right? We had to look up there and scribble them down and hope for the best. Well, this teacher created an amazing lesson that works wonders right here inside of your Mimio Studio software with Mimio Mobile. Because what we're going to do is rather than using that old chart that's hanging on the wall, instead, as the teacher now, I'm going to give different students control, ask them to come up and touch this periodic table. They're going to touch it, they're going to feel it, they're going to engage in it. They're going to have to find the different elements to actually create some of those compounds. And of course, with this periodic table, they're going to be able to drag any of these compounds into this gray space. So I could name a compound, I could have them go ahead and drag them together, and then as a class course we could talk about if that was right or not, and then of course, hey, I could give another student control, just like we had talked about. So again, I could go from one student to another. I could say, okay, John, you're going to come on up and create water for us. Go ahead, John, what elements do we need to make a water compound? All right, great job, John. Now I'm going to turn it over to Cindy. Cindy, you are going to make carbon dioxide. And you imagine you could go around, you could hit every one of your students and you come up with enough compounds for them. So it's a fantastic lesson. It's a great lesson to use with Mimio Mobile, a great way to learn chemistry. Last example of control mode. I know language arts people, you were feeling a little left out, but don't fret. I brought along fun with parts of speech. No, it's not an oxymoron lesson. It actually is very fun. It's okay. My students, they don't laugh at my jokes either. But I see some of my colleagues across the hall at Language Arts. They're always trying to teach parts of speech, and they came up with this one. This is fantastic, where we can now give control. And what the students are going to do is they're going to take the part of speech that matches any of these words that I've underlined, and they're going to go ahead and check their answers. Then, of course, I can give control to another student. So I could say, okay, I need Christy, come on up here and do number 1. Boom, give Christy control. All right, great job. All right, next, I'm going to go ahead and Patty, I'm going to give you control next. Can you come on up and do number 2? So you can see how control mode using Mimio Mobile is going to allow you to get a lot out of your lesson. It's going to allow you to get a lot of engagement from your students. So control mode is a definite plus. Now, beyond control mode, what I get really excited about is collaboration mode. And you might remember at the start of the webinar I mentioned that not only can I give one student control of my lesson, but I can actually give a whole group of students control of my lesson. I can go ahead and I can use what's called collaboration mode, and I can have up to 9 groups working together. How great would that be for a lab or for group work of any type? I use it all the time in my own classroom for a variety of different things. But you get your students together, and now, as you can see on my screen, I can go ahead, I can push a lesson out to my students. And then each group individually can work on it at with their mobile device. While they're working, being projected from my desktop now is each group's work. Now you see 4 here listed, but it can go up to 9, and you can actually see each group working. So depending on what the lesson is, I'll show you some examples here in a minute. It's pretty neat to see everybody working, everybody contributing, and then as a class we can go over each group's work. We can even go ahead and click this button right here, which allows us to focus in on just one group, and then of course we can go back to all of them as well. So collaboration mode is fantastic. Let's go ahead and have a couple of examples here. So here's another social studies example where my students, what they're going to do is they're going to read this passage here together. So what I would do is I'd put this lesson right inside of my Mimio Studio notebook. Again, it's available on MimioConnect.com. Put it right here inside of my notebook, and then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to press this button right here in the middle. That's called my Collaborate button. See, it's got the 3 students on it. Once I do that, then this lesson's going to go out, boom, to all the groups that I have, however many I've set up. And then, like I said, in this example, there's 4, but you can go on up to 9. Now, each group is going to work to complete that passage. So they're going to go ahead, they're going to drag the words down, and we're going to be able to see the progress that each group is making. Eventually, we're going to be able to go over that, check the answers, and, of course, see which groups got it right, which groups got it wrong, and, of course, correct any of those mistakes. It's a really fantastic feature. Another example, here's a science example. Great for differentiation. We can choose a planet from behind the sun, and then we're going to work with our group to make a list of characteristics of that planet. So, for example, we were studying the different planets in the solar system, and so now I take this part of my lesson, and we go into collaborate mode. I press my collaborate button, and on each one of those pads now, we have a different planet. Now, where are they getting the planets? Well, from behind the sun, each group reaches in and they pull out a planet. So this group has Saturn, so now they're going to make a list. But hey, another group, they might pull out Jupiter. Or another group, they might pull out another planet, like Neptune. So it's possible, depending on how many groups you have. Remember, you can go up to 9. There's only 8 planets. You could go ahead and actually have each group working on a different planet. And how great is that then to go over it? Well, look at this group had Mercury. Let's see, what were the characteristics of Mercury? Well, what about Mars? And so forth. Makes for a great feature. We got collaboration, we got instruction, we got engagement, and of course we're able then to go over it as well. Simple math example along the same line. I could go ahead and I could push this problem out to each one of the groups. The groups will then go ahead and solve that equation using the pen tool over here in my Mimio Studio toolbar. And as you can imagine, along the same lines now, I'm able to see each group's work. We're able to check each group's answer. And of course, language arts as well. This is always a fun one, the old qubit lesson. Again, great for differentiation. So I might say, all right, guys, we've been studying all these different parts of speech. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to press the collaborate button, and I want you and your group to roll the dice. See which part of speech you come up with. Oh, look, we got adjectives. And so now the students in that group are going to list adjectives. But of course, one of the other groups, well, they got adjectives too. But one of the other groups, they may have gotten adverbs. Oh boy, that poor group. So now they have to list adverbs. And of course, now once again, I can go around and we can have a class-wide discussion. So collaborate mode is a phenomenal mode. It works great too in conjunction with control. You might do some instruction with control and then go into collaborate mode for some reinforcement. Lastly, we also have Quick Collaborate, which is a blank slate. So even if you don't have a prepared lesson, or even if you haven't gotten one from Mimio Connect, you can always give a group a blank slate. I use this all the time in social studies for brainstorming. My math teachers, they use it all the time as well, so they can solve the problems and show their work. And there's really nothing that you have to do as far as prep work. All you're going to do is go ahead and press your launch button, which is on your mobile device, or if you're familiar with the Mimio Teach, there's also one built in there. And then you're going to click on Quick Collaborate, which is going to give you this nice blank sheet. And once again, then we'll be able to see what each group is working on. So Quick Collaborate is great as well. A nice mix and match of them, I find, works brilliantly. Now, of course, no lesson would start or finish without assessment. And the third thing that you're going to be able to do with Mimio Mobile in your classroom is easy assessment. Because what we can do, like I mentioned before, is take your mobile device and turn it in to an assessment tool. So not only are we going to be able to do pre-assessment, but we're also going to be able to do post-assessment in a variety of ways. So you could start your lesson with some sort of pre-assessment. You could go into a control mode to do some instruction. You could go into a collaborate mode then to do some reinforcement. And then, of course, right back to the assessment piece to make sure that the students gathered the learning target or the concept or whatever the objective of your lesson might have been. Like I mentioned, we can ask true and false questions, we can ask multiple choice questions, short answer, alphanumeric, and my Mimio Studio gradebook records all the data. Everything is recorded for you. So you can easily go in, you can see right away which concepts your class got, which concepts your class might need more help with, which students maybe need to be challenged more, which students might need some intervention, which students are doing okay. You have all those reports right at your fingertips. So with Mimio Mobile, here are some examples of what assessment might look like. I could ask a straight multiple choice question, just like this, where the students then would just have to answer A, B, C, or D. And of course, on their mobile device, it would just simply show up with those letters. Also, you can see what it looks like on a phone. In this case, they have a smartphone there as well, which is great. We have templates available in our Mimio Studio gallery to create questions like this very easily and very quickly. It's just a matter of dragging and dropping and typing in your question. We also, of course, can do alphanumeric questions. So maybe back to our solar system lesson here, we don't want to just ask a true and false or multiple choice question. Well, now we can actually have the students type in the answer using their keyboard on their mobile device. Mimio Mobile makes that possible. Same deal with parts of speech. We can go ahead and have the students actually type in the word adjective to get the question correct. So again, we don't have to stick to just true and false or multiple choice. And numbers, of course, work too if you are, in fact, a math teacher. So all those things are available to you. You can imagine the power of Mimio Mobile and the ability to really keep your class jumping, keep your class active, make your learning experience enjoyable, and, of course, be able to engage your students, assess your students in all of your relevant content. So hopefully that gives you a good idea of what Mimio Mobile is all about. And as you can tell, I get pretty excited about it. I can talk about Mimio Mobile all day long. But now I'm going to turn it over to Paget for our question and answer. So take it away, Paget.
Okay, great. Thanks very much, Paul. So we've had some great questions from the group today. Thanks for your participation. I'm just going to go through them and direct them to either Paul or Travis and get some answers. So I think the first question I'm going to send to Paul, and it was the question that was asked was, when you're using the control mode within the Mimio mobile app, is this control limited to one student at a time? So over to you, Paul.
Yes, so that's a great question. Thanks for asking that question. So when you're in control mode, if you can imagine as the teacher, you have your own mobile device. You're able then to pass off control to the students. And yes, you're going to have one student at a time working on it. But the nice thing, of course, is then you can transition very easily, very quickly with a push of another button to collaborate mode if you want to have that group experience where they're working together. So in answer to the question, yes, Control mode, there's going to be one student at a time. The student will have the lesson pop up on their mobile device. The other students will be closed out until you give them control. And then, of course, you can easily transition into collaborate if you'd like to get more students involved. Very flexible.
Okay. Thanks, Paul. That's great. Okay, so this is going to be a question for Travis. The question that was asked was to do everything that you've been showing during this presentation, we need Mimio Mobile, the teacher's computer, and the student's mobile devices with Mimio Studio. Is that right? So I guess the person just wanted to check they understood exactly all of the components that were needed for this type of activity.
Sure, yeah, I'll take that. So the as Paul was showing is the presentation that he has been presenting here. That's all done in the Mimio Studio software, which of course anybody can download that right from the website. I think that link was provided earlier in the session, so you go back to the chat window. So that runs on a teacher's computer, and then the Mimio Mobile license, which is available as a separate license to purchase. That is simply a code that can be entered to make that feature accessible on the teacher's computer. And then you just need the mobile devices, whether those are iPads or Android devices or mobile phones, smartphones. Those simply, like Paul showed, you scan a QR code once you download the Mimio Mobile app as a separate download, and that's all you really need. In addition to, I guess, the Wi-Fi, you do have to. They do talk with each other over your built-in Wi-Fi that you would have hopefully in your school, or some sort of wireless network that allows both student devices and teachers' devices to communicate on the same frequency. So that's all you need.
Great. Thanks, Travis. Cleared that up. Okay, a question for Paul. The question that was asked was, can I use this Mimio Mobile app on different types of devices, such as iOS, iPad devices, or Android devices?
Yes, absolutely. So it will work with either, and it will work with combinations of them. So, for example, if you have students that have downloaded the app, maybe some of them have an iPhone or some of them have an Android, or you have a combination, it will all work seamlessly for you because of Mimio Mobile and Mimio Studio, of course, in the background.
Okay, great. Thank you, Paul. And then another question for you, Paul, specifically a little bit more about the content within the gallery. Is rolling the dice available in the gallery? So you had shown that. Is that available?
Yes. There are a variety of dies that are located in your Mimio Studio gallery. And of course, to get to your gallery, you just go to your Mimio Studio toolbar, and then on down to the gallery button here, the gallery browser. It's towards the bottom there, the third one on the left-hand side. And it will be one of your multimedia features when you open up your gallery. So that should have installed with your software.
Okay, great. And then, Paul, one more sort of question regarding content. The question that was asked was, when you download these different lessons, how do I put all of the math together and all of the science together, combining different types of content?
With the Collaborate to the Core from Mimio Connect, there should be some lessons that would work in either setting. I believe it's broken down by subject matter, and then you'll be able to utilize those within your Mimio Studio software. So pretty much anything that you put inside your Mimio Studio software, you can then translate into either control mode or to collaborate mode. And the Mimio Connect Collaborate to the Core is a great place to start because there's stuff there for all subject areas and curriculum.
Great. Okay. Thank you, Paul. And then I think one more question we had, and I'm going to direct this to Travis, was the question that was asked was, can you use the collaborate mode with more, is it just 9 students or groups of students or more? So to you,
sure.
Travis.
Yep, I'll address it. But I want to come back to that last question, and maybe if the person that submitted that question, if we need to, maybe address it a little bit better, you might put a follow-up question there. But I'm going to have Paul go to Mimio Connect here in just a second. We'll show you where you can find those different lessons by the lesson plans, by subject areas. But the current question, so I get back on topic, is can you use to collaborate with more than 9? So currently, as Paul showed you, you can use with up to 9 devices, and that does include 9 student devices plus a teacher. One exciting thing I'm going to share with you right now, and Paul probably doesn't even know this, but in the very near future, you're going to be able to use the Collaborate feature with any number of devices in your classroom. So you can look for that later this summer in the next big version that we will be releasing. And again, you will not have any limits on the number of devices that you can use in your classroom. So it's going to be quite exciting, and it's going to be the next chapter in the fantastic evolution of the Mimio Studio software and Mimio Mobile. So be looking for that. You should be available late summer, early August in that Studio version. So right now, you're limited to 9, and you have plenty of options to get kiddos to collaborate in that capacity. But it's going to open up so many more avenues, I think, for teachers to be able to have many students to collaborate in the classroom. So back to the other one that I wanted to show here. Thank you, Paul, for going to that link there. So the link that has been provided in the chat box will take you directly to a set of lessons that were created by teachers, just like everybody in this session. And as Paul will scroll down, there's a number of lessons. You can download the entire pack of lessons, or you could go to subject-specific lessons and download those. And within each of those files, you'll see their math, and language arts, science, and social studies. Those are even further broken down into grade level. So I believe you'll find 2 to 3 examples from a K through 2 level, 3 through 5 level, and then also 6 through 12 level. We'll definitely check that out. Hopefully that might address that question that was asked there about how to download the lessons and put together math and science. So yeah, of course, if you need any follow-up to anything, don't hesitate to reach out to us at training@mimio.com, and I'll put that link there in the chat box. So, okay, hopefully that addressed that, Paget. I'll let you go from there.
Okay. So, Travis, I think we're covered on the questions and answers. So I'm going to hand it back to you to take us to the next section.
Okay, and thank you, Paul. Once again, a fantastic job. And if you definitely want to hear more of Paul, definitely check out some of our Quick Learn sessions, which he's one of our moderators there and does a wonderful job there. So, and as we switch gears back to wrapping things up, thank you again for joining us for today's webinar series. You are able to earn professional development credit just for being here, just by following a link there. So I'm going to put that link there in the chat box also. If you follow that link, this will also be provided in a follow-up email that you will receive in about 48 hours, in addition to the transcript of questions and answers and the recording link. You just simply input a few characteristics with information, and we'll generate a certificate for you in the next 24 to 48 hours that you can use for professional development credit. So there is that, and we offer that in each of our webinars. With that said, we also offer a number of training options. As you'll see there on the screen, I'll put some information there in the box also, and I think it was already included previously. So you're going to see a wide range of training resources. We fully believe in supporting teachers in every way we can, and these are all on-demand and online free resources, from downloadable PDF guides. We have over 60 video tutorials that are each 3 to 7 minutes in length. Gives you a very quick snapshot of how to do little things within the software using your product. Of course, we support ongoing professional development through our Quick Learn program. Paul is one of those trainers. You can join Paul in certain evenings that he's scheduled and learn all about the software along with other members of our training team. Those are also available on demand 24/7 through 65. And each one of those training sessions, you also have the option of earning professional development credit with the certificate completion, as well as being entered into our monthly Quick Learn sweepstakes drawing, where we give away Mimio products. In addition to that, we also support our Mimio trusted partners. If you need on-site training options, we can definitely connect you with an appropriate partner that Mimio works with and get you connected with a certified trainer that can come out and work with you and your staff. And of course, we have our free webinar series, as I mentioned to start with. This is our final webinar of the spring season, and we'll be advertising more webinars as we get those developed, maybe late summer and definitely in the fall. So be looking for those. And all of our webinars remain on demand also. So there you go there. So Paul mentioned earlier about Mimio Connect. He did a great job. Lots of great content there. A lot of it aligned to state and Common Core standards. So great place to start, a great place to continue supporting your efforts there. So check that out. Lastly here, before we wrap everything up, there's a whole slew of products that you can get involved with. Many of those are what Paul had mentioned. That's definitely the beast of everything is the Mimio Studio software and Mimio Mobile. And then all the products that I've always loved, and I come from a classroom also prior to my role here, is that every one of these products are super easy to work with, and they all integrate with one software package in Mimio Studio. So you don't have to learn multiple different software packages to do what you want to do, and it just makes sense. So definitely check those out, and don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions regarding that. So we come to the close. So once again, thank you for joining us. Again, expect to see a follow-up email that comes out within about 48 hours, and you will receive an email that will include a reporting link. It will include the question and answers from today's session and all that good stuff. So on behalf of Mimio, I'd like to say thank you, Paul. Wonderful job for what you did today. For those that are still with us, you can help us out by closing out your browser. That will allow us to close the recording down and get that all packaged up so we can get that out to you as you simply close your window or hit file it. So on behalf of all of us here at Mimio, thank you, Paul. Thank you, Patrick, for your help, and we hope to see you again real soon. And definitely check us out on demand for the webinar series at mimio.com/webinar. Have a great day, and once again, happy Teacher Appreciation